So next, we're going to look at some of our most important connections, as it were, between these trig functions. We're going to look at what are called our fundamental identities, where the first ones we have are ones that you should be somewhat familiar with, where these are just the reciprocal identities. That is, sine of some angle t is the same as 1 over cosecant at t. Cosine is the same as 1 over secant. Tangent is the same as sine over cosine, or 1 over cotangent, and cotangent is cosine over sine, or 1 over tangent. And from these, we get another set of identities called the Pythagorean identities. And these, in my opinion, are really, really vital and also kind of interesting to think about. So I'll describe where at least a couple of them come from in a bit more detail. But the big things we have here are that sine squared of t plus cosine squared of t equals 1. 1 plus tangent squared of t equals secant squared of t. And 1 plus cotangent squared of t equals cosecant squared of t. These three are ones you will see a lot more in calculus, and especially in calculus 2. But to see where they come from, we can go back to where we started. X squared plus y squared equals 1. Where if we have the unit circle, well, we can just rewrite that in terms of the trig functions. Because, cosine of some angle is equal to x, and sine of that same angle is equal to y. So pull in the square, rearrange, and you get sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. And then you can take this, and to get the other two pieces, you can just use those reciprocal identities. So for example, if you divide this whole thing through by sine squared, that sine squared goes away. You get cosine squared over sine squared, which is just cotangent squared. And then over here you get 1 over sine squared, which is cosecant squared. Which means, dividing through by sine squared gets you to that third identity. And the same idea can be used to get the second one. Where from here, what we can do is use this to find some specific angles. So for example, let's say that if cosine equals 1/2, we want to find the value of sine. What we can do is use that first piece of the Pythagorean identity, where we have sine squared of t plus cosine squared of t equals 1. And note that because cosine equals 1/2, we have sine squared plus 1/2 squared equals 1. I should be clear that's a 2. Or sine squared plus 1/4 equals 1. Or sine squared of 3/4 equals 1. And hopefully a couple of you are getting a little tired of the detail, but hey, we need to be extra sure that at the end of this, sine of t is equal to the square root of 3/4. We're taking the positive square root because of that value for cosine, although technically I guess we could take the negative. But here, we'll simplify that and get root 3/2. And that actually hints at a very important relationship that we'll see later in terms of the angle at 60 degrees. But we're not quite there yet. What we're going to finish with for this section is a bit on the periodicity of our trig functions.